Yeah, we living in a world where social media, attention is a big thing. We tend to gravitate to these things and hoping that they would be there for us forever, but it's only temporary.
Tell me you gon' ride for me. Tell me you gon' ride for me. Tell me you gon' ride for me. Tell me you gon' ride for me.
Tell me you gon' ride for me. Tell me you gon' ride for me. Are you down for me? Could you be around for me? And give me your life on trial for me.
Hello everyone, welcome to our next episode of Love Thy Neighbor. I'm Angelica, we have Wilt over there, and we're welcomed today by two special guests. I'm very excited for this episode. This episode is going to be on mental health. So before we get started, I want to get them to kind of introduce themselves. We'll start with Dion and then we'll go to Jeff.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Dion Brown. I'm a current doctoral student at VCU in the developmental psychology program, and I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I consider myself a mental health advocate.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Cuthbertson. I am the CEO of God Bless Therapy. I am a current certified substance abuse counselor. I'm also a qualified mental health professional. All kinds of license, all kinds of credentials on the behind my name. I hold a master's in criminal justice counseling. Currently, I'm working at an inpatient facility, drug rehab facility right here located in Richmond, Virginia, on Forest Hill, right across the street from Huguenot High, and I'm honored to be here right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for having us.
I just want to just jump right in, and you can both, just kind of take turns. But I want to talk about why mental health and why is it important.
That's a good question. Go ahead, Dion. That's a good question.
Why mental health? I would say, like, for me, I guess my interest in mental health starts from emotions. Just creating emotional space for others and myself. I think growing up, I didn't always have that space, like just knowing some of the aspects of Black culture and, how we might encourage people to hold things in. Respect for elders and things like that. Like, I didn't always feel like I could express myself. And I see how that affected me growing up throughout my life. And so it's been kind of like my mission to, I guess, cultivate emotional space for others. So it kind of just, I guess it's just like it's rooted in me. Like, it's in the foundation of like how I was raised, how I grew up, and that's essentially what I study through my program. So yeah.
So, that's a dope answer. For me, mental health, why is mental health important? It's because it's the other half. We all always talking about being wholly full, being completely full. And you have your one half of your body, which is your physical health. I want to take care of my physical temple. I want to eat well. I want to work out well. I want to make sure I maintain positive relationships and positive friendships and things of that nature. Where the other half of that is my mental, is how I think, how I move, what are my beliefs, what really controls and leads my behavior. And if I don't address that, then I won't be completely full. We always talking about, hey, my other half makes me better. No, you want to go into that relationship completely full. And what that looks like is your physical health is strong and your mental health is strong as well.
Can I add something? One thing you said, Dion, as Black people, it's always said, you better not say nothing, or type of situation.
Yeah.
Why do y'all feel, and this is for both of y'all, why do y'all feel that is in our culture as Black people? Because, like, if you hear something, you better not say anything, like we're embarrassed to express. Like, it's like there's a sense of embarrassment. Why do y'all, feel like it may be that way?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's protective. The intention is good, like, especially like when we're considering, I'm sure we'll get into like therapy and things like that, but you just don't know what people are gonna do, like, with the information that you give them, especially if, like, you're not an insider if you so to speak of our culture, then we're like, okay, what are they gonna do with this information? So like that's something that I have to keep in mind as a researcher in training. Is like research has a history of mistreating black people. So it's like, okay, who is this researcher coming into my community? Like, what is he gonna do with this information? But then I think it also like it can be like to a fault sometimes. Like it's like, all right, well, this is the family. Like we are a family unit, and we're not talking about things. So it's like, all right, like what I thought, like this is supposed to be my safe space, so we should be able to talk about this. So, yeah, I guess it's nuanced in that way.
That's good. I think, and just make sure I want to get your question right. You're asking why are we afraid to share?
Yeah, why do you feel like that is in the black community?
Like almost don't snitch.
Don't say anything about what Big Mama was doing with so and so type situation. You know,
I think that's rooted in fear. I'm afraid to share to the doctor because I don't want to hear what he's about to say. I'm afraid to share my financial stability or where I'm at financially because I don't want to hear what the credit report is going to say to me. I just don't want to hear it. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to tell the police officer what I just saw last night because I'm afraid what's going to happen to me or the repercussions in the neighborhood. And so that's rooted in fear. I think that root thing of why our community and our culture are afraid to that title of I'm not snitching or I'm not gonna say nothing, I'm just gonna keep myself, I'm gonna keep it inside. I think it's rooted in fear, and we just don't want to hear. People don't like conviction. People don't like conviction.
That's real.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Like, wow, it makes me think of my own fears, and you know, when we do get to therapy, we'll get there. It's you know, talking to my therapist about fear makes me think, like, you know, I don't want to talk about this because I don't know what's on the other side.
Right.
Like, I don't know what's over there.
The uncertainty
so I don't want to go over there.
The uncertainty scares people.
Yeah, so it's very interesting how we have the both of you. Dion, you're coming from more of like the research and psychology side, and Jeff, you're coming from more of the therapy point of view. Jeff, I want you to talk a little bit about God plus therapy, because this is the Love Thy Neighbor podcast, and we do try to reach believers and non-believers.
Right.
So I want to kind of talk a little bit about basically God and therapy and how they can kind of coexist together.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you exactly how it was created. I do individual sessions, and a lot of times people will tell me, Jeff, you know what? I'm just tired of hearing people tell me to pray about my issues, pray about my doubt, pray about my fear, pray about my insecurities, my depression, my anxiety, all of these things. Telling me to pray about these things, and then after I pray about them, I get up, I still feel the fear. I still feel the doubt. I'm still scared to get out of bed and tackle this new job, or I'm still afraid to address this thing with my wife because I don't know what's going to happen. Going back to that, when you asked earlier. So God sat there and said, Jeff, put it together. Put it together, because he told me that faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
So you can have all the faith in the world, but you don't put any work to it, you're never going to be able to overcome that disorder. Or that anxiety, or whatever, that seasonal depression, you know, whatever it is that you're facing, if you do not put work to it. And so then he said, okay, now also explain to people that therapy is not just coming into office and sitting with me, sitting on the couch and having me with a clipboard diving into your future. Because your past, not your future, I'm sorry, but diving in your past, you know, like it's not, it doesn't always look like that, you know. Therapy comes in so many different forms, which is why we have to go to God first, so he can show us the right form of therapy. To you, therapy may be playing 2K. To me, therapy might be making a cake with my wife. Maybe laying on the floor playing with my kid. To you, therapy might be riding a bike on a fall afternoon with the breeze going through your hair, you know? Or maybe going to the beach and sitting in the neighborhood, sitting at the beach with your journal and journaling, listening to music, listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
There's so many different forms of therapy that people just kind of just put it around and limit it and put it inside of a little box to, I got to go sit on the couch like this and be like, well, when I was a little kid, like, nah, it doesn't, that's part of it, yes, but it doesn't sit like that. So once you add God to it, because again, God will direct you in the right place. God will say, okay, yeah, you pray to me, we talk. Now I created a whole park down the street. Why aren't you utilizing that part down there? Like, what are you doing? What's going on? And so when you put God plus therapy together, you will have the success that you're looking for. That's a great question.
That was good, man. I think one of the big things you said about God, if we look at how God even was walking in this earth in physical form, as Jesus Christ, we think about a lot of times Jesus got a way to speak with the Father, and to me, I believe that was a sense of therapy as well, because he's speaking to his Father in community. So I guess if we can look at that even just in general as human beings, speaking to our parents, I think is a big thing we can learn about ourselves, because a lot of times it's kind of like, why am I dealing with this? Or why am I feeling this way? And then, and I'll talk to my sister about this. It's like, man, we think about like how our parents was. It's kind of like they may not express certain things, as, you would want them to, or they're like, we're taught, kind of like, because I said so. Better not ask why. And it's like, well, God is like, I want you to ask me. Come to me, all ye, that are hurting or, dealing with things. I want you to talk to me. So I believe that communication is very, very important. But I believe, also, and this is no diss to the older generation, but I believe the older generation, they're just going by what their parents was, what their parents was. So I feel like what you said, both of y'all said, is very important to have that and not have that fear. I think that fear, it chokes a lot of us in the black community, not just the black community. It's all around.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. That God plus therapy part is. It's like you can't have one without the other. You can go all to the therapy all you want, but if I don't have the faith part of it, then I'm not going to believe what I'm sitting and receiving from my counselor, from my life coach, from my psychiatrist. I'm just not going to believe. And again, if you just have just the just the faith and that's it, you're going to get up from that prayer and say, okay, now what happened? Because God is not going to, if you say, God, I want peace, he's not going to be like, all right, you got peace. Right. He's going to give you an opportunity to achieve peace, or obtain peace. He's not going to, you're not going to say, God, I need courage right now. He's not going to be like, all right, here go a slingshot. He's not going to be like, here, now your courage. It's like, no, he's not a genie. Yeah. He's going to provide opportunities for you to achieve your heart's desire.
Yeah. That speaks to the importance of relationship. Like, I think God can be mysterious to a lot of people. Like there's a lot of things about like popular culture where we're like, God works in mysterious ways, or even just speaking to what you're talking about with therapy. The reason why people think of like therapy that way is because of media. You see, that's why I started laughing, because like that's like one of my convictions is like, dang, like they're always like showing somebody sitting on the couch or like, like that's what you expect when you go into therapy. And so I love the fact that you said it's diverse, like it comes in many different ways. And then I would just add, like with the communication piece, like in terms of what I study in my program is how Black parents teach their children about emotions. So for me, like a lot of that is intergenerational, and I'm looking for ways to study that. But I'm mostly interested in how fathers teach their children about emotions, because I think we know there's a lot of dynamics at play there, like in terms of masculinity. I think like Jeff said, fear is a big thing, whether it's coming from like just within our own circles or trying to protect us from the world, like in terms of because of your racial identity. And so I do think it's important, like Jeff said, to start from God, because y'all kind of spoke on this recently, but like that's where you get your identity from. So you're not just looking at it like, oh, I'm this Black man who's oppressed, and like, no, I'm starting from like a strengths-based perspective, where it's like, okay, like this is what I have, like I'm not lacking, like what I have is full in God. So
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So like, what made you want to start working on your own mental health?
Wow.
Okay, Joe. Come on.
She coming for y'all.
We're going to swing for the fences out here.
Jeff, you want
yeah, I
to
go first.
Yeah.
It's just personal things that have happened in my life. Wilt knows this. I think Dion knows this too as well. But I've been through a divorce, and after that divorce was the worst part of my life. That period after the divorce was horrible. It was horrible. Like, I had a lot of emotions going in that time. I felt like I disrespected my family, my last name. I felt like I dishonored my son at the time, because we had a son inside of the marriage. And so I felt like I was doing that. I felt like I was I had a horrible perspective on marriage. I was like, husbandhood? Like, nah, it's the worst hood ever. 4 stars. Would not recommend it. But nah, that's how I was thinking. Like, I was like, nah. And then those thought processes, you remember Orange is the New Black? So when that first came out, when that very first came out, picture a young man, I had to been about 29. I think when that first came out, 28, 29 when that first came out. And so imagine a young man coming home. He had his own apartment that was like literally 3 minutes from the house that his ex-wife and son was living in. Wow. But I would come home and I would drink. And I'm not talking like a little bit. I'm talking like the 750 milliliter boy of Hennessy on the couch in the dark, not watching the TV, not watching it on the TV, but watching it on my phone. In the dark and Hennessy, like, and this is on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and on Friday I get 2. Why? Because it's the weekend. And so I would say to myself, I'm gonna drink my emotions away. I'm gonna drink this whole situation away. Like, and of course that didn't work. And so of course that ended up me moving back down with my parents because I'm spending money on liquor. I'm not getting what I need. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do at the job. Next thing I know, I'm moving back in with my mom, and it was just getting worse and worse. I was just going down and down and down and down and down and down. And I just realized, I remember I looked up, and my mom did this. She did this to me. One day she walked into the room, and she was like, hitting me on my chest. This is not the man that I raised. And I was like, oh, man. So I was like, all right, let's do something different. But before I even got to that point, before I even moved back to Richmond, right then and there, I knew I needed something else. Like, I knew I needed and of course I wasn't in church like I was supposed to be. Like, I knew of church because I grew up around church. I ain't gonna say I grew up in church. I grew up around church because I went to church with the girls one day. So I grew up around church. I don't know who out there grew up around church. I'm speaking to them.
Right.
But so I knew I needed something. I wasn't that guy. I was like, let me go pray. That's what I need. Nah, I needed something. So I went and got the work first. I was like, all right, let me sit down with this guy and really break me down. Really, like, pull me apart, pull this onion thing apart. And I realized that I wasn't effectively communicating my thoughts and feelings. I realized I didn't know how to effectively communicate my thoughts and feelings. I realized I had triggers that I didn't address. I realized I didn't even know how to identify my triggers. I didn't know how to... my interpersonal skills were horrible. Like, everything was just horrible. And I just realized, okay, I hate you right now. Like, I don't like you right now, Mr. Man. But I appreciate you. I appreciate this. And now I realize, okay, let me do better. And so here's what's kind of cool, because I kind of did it backwards. Like I said, I went and got to work first. And then I moved to Richmond. Okay. And when I moved to Richmond, it was almost like the prodigal son came back. Like, you know what I mean? I moved back to Richmond, and that's when Pastor Vernon reached out and was like, yo, I need you. And I'm like, me? Because I was still, even though I had I had my counseling. I know who I am. I know how to communicate now. But now I'm thinking like, oh, this is a secret weapon. This is a secret weapon. I can communicate myself now. Oh, shorty. I'm like, yo. So look, this is how I feel. and so I was like getting them. But now I'm not acting out drinking. I'm acting out jumping from relationship to relationship, tearing them girls left and right. I'm like, all right. I'm like, yo, this is not right. Something about this is not right. But Pastor Vernon reached out to me and was like, yo, I need you. So what you need me for? Like, you know who you talking to, right? He was like, yeah, God told me I need you, bro. Wow. And so I was like, huh? Yeah. And no lie, during that conversation, I was headed to Howard University homecoming. It was my birthday weekend. And I had a bottle of Hennessy in my lap, probably the size of this man right here. And I'm on the phone with Pastor Vernon, like...
He was on the way to D.C.
Yeah, I was on the way to D.C. I was like, you need me? He's like, yeah, I need you. Never heard from him again. When I got back, I was looking online. And mind you, I went through the counseling. After I realized I did the work first. I had no faith to it. So nothing changed. My behavior didn't change. My perspective changed a little bit, but my behavior didn't change. And it didn't change until I added the faith to it. That's when Pastor Vernon was like, yo, I need you. And that's why I got back and I saw he was opening up the church, joined the church. And so now I was able to add the faith to the work. And to answer your question, what caused me to go get the work was me really looking at myself and saying, I don't know who you are. And confirmed that by my mom tapping me in my chest saying, I know I went all the way around to come back to your question, but my mom tapped me. It was the confirmation to say, this is not who I raised. And so it was one moment. This is how you know when you need counseling. When you ever look yourself in the mirror and say, I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, because you're the person that lived with you for X amount of years, how you expect? Yeah, how do you relate? How do you build a relationship? How do you cultivate a relationship? How do you manage a relationship? How do you even maintain a relationship? If you can look in the mirror and say, I don't know who you are. And that right there was like, this ain't good. This ain't good. So I went all the way around the mulberry bush to answer your question.
No, that's good. That's a very mind-blowing moment because it reminds me of that episode we did, the forgiveness episode, and I mentioned how there was a time where I was going through some depression and I had to forgive myself for something, but I didn't want to because when I looked in the mirror, it was like I didn't really see myself. Like I didn't know who that person was. And that was around the time where I actually was in the process of starting therapy. So that's great that you said that.
Yeah. That's, if I could add to it, like I think that looking in the mirror, I had to do that last year for myself. Just like Jeff talked about, like divorce. I went through a divorce as well. So I think what's so crazy is God has a way of working. It's like one of the greatest things I've been through because I finally had got to the point to where I was able to like learn how to love myself. Because for so long, like I said that in a previous episode to Angelica, she was like, really? Like, yeah, because it's like you see someone being an artist, you see them interacting, you see them doing things, you think like, man, like they're so outgoing and this, that, and the other. But you'll never know what personal things that they dealt with over the years. And it's for so long, like, and this goes beyond relationships, but just in general, like, I never had loved myself until I had something like big like that happen. And God had me by myself with me and him. And it taught me like, yo, like, I love myself. Like, I finally got to the point like, yo, I really love myself. And this is not from a selfish standpoint, but it's like, yo, I love me.
That's not selfish at all.
But, some people might think like, maybe religious people.
You let them think they're selfish. But when you say I love me, that's not selfish at all.
Yeah.
That's not selfish at all.
But, yeah, it's like, I actually, like, love me. I actually enjoy. Like, it was time I took myself out on a date. A couple of dates, actually. I enjoyed myself. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah. And it taught me, like, man, like, it taught me, really showed me how important God is, for real. Just who he is just like, how he created me, how he loved me, how, he validates me, that I didn't need anybody else to validate me or validate who Will Sorrell was, that I was already validated. And then that really helped me transition to love myself and then to know how to love thy neighbor. That's a bar. No, but what you said, is true. So when I was speaking about, as far as like, you have those that have that mindset that think like, oh, you all about yourself. Because there are people that's like that. They think like, yo,
yes, I am.
You're
yes, I am.
Yourself.
Yes,
I am. You have people that be like, well, how you about yourself?
Yes, I am.
Think about yourself. So I said that because it's more people that's just...
Guess what? Yes, I am. Yes. If you can't handle it, bye-bye. Seriously, like that's the most unselfish thing a human being can do is be about their self.
Yeah.
Like, if you're about yourself, you're focusing on your emotions, you're focusing on your well-being, your mental health, your physical health, your financial health, you're creating a high self-awareness. And if I do all of that, guess what? Our relationship become better.
Yep.
So,
that's real.
Kill that noise. Yes, I'm selfish. I think about myself. I know how to say no.
I was laughing because a lyric had popped up in my mind, or just a concept of Wale's album. Like, wow, that's crazy. He was like, a black man learning to love himself.
Yeah,
like, wow, that's crazy. Like, imagine that. So that had popped up in my head. But to answer your question, Angelica, I think it like my mental health challenges like most obviously manifested like through my procrastination in school.
Wow.
And so like in undergrad, like it was easy, like it's easy to procrastinate. Everybody does it. But when you go to that next level, like graduate school, it's like, I mean, it was like it was revealed immediately when I started the program. Like, no, like that same approach is not going to work here. But I still kept on doing it. And then I kind of found myself like speaking to what you were saying, Will, about people like doing all of these things, engaging in all these things. Like I had started a podcast, and then I was doing mental health and hip hop. Like I was blogging and writing, and all this stuff was dope. But I was avoiding my responsibilities, which was to pursue this PhD that I applied to get in, was accepted to get in, and it's like, all right, this is your responsibility. And at that time, it was like I pretty much like sabotaged my my progress in the program, and ended up failing the class. And then it was like, all right, maybe I should go figure out what's going on here, because this pattern keeps on presenting itself, like, and this is a pattern like I'm actively working through. Like self-sabotage is very real. And so that was when I decided to pursue therapy. And I think also just speaking to it, like, practicing transparency, a big thing that became prevalent for me over that time, and probably for the past several years, has been porn addiction. And just it's almost like a uber avoid, like an ultra avoidance. Like it's not necessarily that this is something that I want to do all the time. It's just I don't want to do that all the time. I don't want to do this work right now. So whatever I have at my disposal, I'll use it. So alcohol, porn, music, like all these things, like it's just like an ultra avoidance. Sex.
Yeah, that was mine. I just how Will is. Well, y'all know how I am. You know what I'm saying? I'm real about mine.
Yeah.
But
no. I mean, let's that's what this platform is for. Like, it's getting real. So like, I feel like I need to speak on that, because that's something that I've kind of been hiding and not really sharing with everybody. But of course, as I've grown into more community, we've been talking about that, and particularly as men, I think like we're taught to, I guess, get all of these things, like to be engaged in all these things, get our career right, get our body right, get all these things right, but then on the inside, like it's like we're suffering. So it was some of those dynamics that led me to therapy, and I've been in and out of therapy, because when I went, one thing about me is I'm really a self-aware, so I know what the problems are, I know what the patterns are. It's like, all right, like it's what Jeff is speaking to, like, all right, what are you gonna do about it? And so when I went, I did several sessions, and then it was like, I think it's time to terminate, because I know what my patterns are. So we terminated, but I've returned to therapy, and will continue to return to therapy, because I have friends who encourage me, like, you should make it an active, like, not even just reactive. It should just be like a constant throughout your life, where you receive therapy. You're constantly receiving therapy. So that's kind of my journey of my personal mental health.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you.
No problem.
Jeff, he kind of shared some about his own faith journey in regards to mental health. Dion, I've known you for a while, and I've heard some of your own. Can you touch a little bit on your own faith journey?
Yeah. Well, I thought about it earlier when Wilt was speaking to, like, the questions that God wants us to ask. And I think my personal experience, my worldly experience, if you will, as a black man, has always been priority over, any other identity. Especially going to Virginia Tech, a predominantly white institution, my racial identity became very salient. So it's like, oh yeah, like, I'm going to engage in all of these black student campus orgs, these campus student orgs. And I got saved in college. I would say, like Jeff, I didn't grow up in the church.
Around
it. Not necessarily for the girls, but I was just there, like, I just went to church with my mom. Like, I'm the kid in there, like, can't stay still. Like, Mom, let me get a piece of candy. I'm not really paying attention to what's going on. I'm not really, super engaged in the services and things like that. But coming into college, constantly being in and out of relationships, and I was in a relationship that, my ex, she introduced me to Christ almost. Like, she saw, like, something in me and was like, here's a Bible, you know what I'm saying? Like, you use this, and that's kind of how I grew in my relationship with Christ. And because I'm so curious, like it helps like in my career, like as a researcher and training, and it helped like when I got the Bible, because I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm in it, like I'm deep diving into the word.
Right.
But I would say I wavered because you're in college, like there's an emphasis on free thinking and
Right.
all of these different paths that you can take to enlightenment almost.
Spirituality.
Right, spirituality and things. So I was exposed to things like that led me to think, oh, like this religion can't be for me because it was used to oppress my people. So I used that to like create a barrier between me and God, as opposed to like now, like you're saying, we're like learning like, oh, like I can ask these questions, like discovering apologetics now, like that's been like a huge thing for me, because it's like, oh, this is the very thing that led, oh, like it drove a wedge between me and God, because I'm thinking, I can't adhere to this faith. This is the same faith that oppressed my people, and it's like,
right.
Now I'm learning, oh, you are not like, although there is so much emphasis on your race in this world, that is not you. Like it doesn't stop there. That's a part of you, but you are whole in me. Like that's what God tells me. And so I would take like I proudly take like your race, and you should be proud of that. Like don't shy away from that, but also don't make that an idol too.
Right, for sure.
And so
for sure.
that's been an idol for me. And so being able to kind of come back into faith, if you will, finding TLC after graduating, being in and out of relationships, like the It's Not You, It's Me sermon series has been huge, because when I came to TLC, that was the thing, that like I was in and out of relationships, and it's like, what is this pattern that you're engaging in? And it was people pleasing,
Oh yeah.
So learning to be comfortable with yourself, like you said, dating yourself,
Yeah.
dating your friends before you date like somebody official, like show like respect and grow your relationship with your friends before you pursue something just to, I guess, fulfill you and like fill a void. So
Yeah, two things I want to touch on. For those of y'all that don't know what TLC is, it's the Life Church. It's all our church. We all go to this.
Gang, gang.
Yeah, we all know what time it is. Shouts out to Pastor Vernon Gordon and Ashley. But one thing you said, especially when it came to the Christianity thing, a lot of the stuff that we were taught about the oppression, about that it was like pretty much Christianity being like the white man's religion. It was so many like loopholes and stuff that people not knowing the truth about.
yeah,
And like when we realized that a lot of people of color came from the word, even it was a brother that helped Jesus carry the cross by the name of Simon of Cyrene, and when I had found that out, I was like, man, like God does love our culture.
right.
He's not against it,
Right.
regardless of what people that don't look like us try to do to, turn us away from our faith.
Yeah,
The dignity was there in the scripture,
yeah,
before it was taken by Europe and did what it did, but understanding that's even helpful for therapy.
yeah,
Because it's like, as Christians, it's like, you say you black and you Christian, it's like, what? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like one of those, you're not, you must not be woke, you don't really know. And it's like, nah, we actually are.
yeah,
But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
yeah. I mean, it's powerful. You see yourself represented.
Yeah, because identity is a big thing in our culture that
Yeah.
people feel like I don't matter. That's like we talked about earlier. I can't speak up about how I feel about certain issues because if I do, it's this way. Or being a black man in America, like we'll have to, a cop pull up behind us, we have to make sure oh Lord Jesus, I need you right now. That's like, why do I have to feel that way?
Yeah,
So and that plays on. I feel like this what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like psyche of the mind with that.
Yeah.
A lot of black brothers may feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm sure black women as well.
Yeah.
But
The fear. Going back to fear, what Jeff was speaking on, is huge.
Yeah.
Real big.
Yeah.
Real big.
I think it's amazing how we have the three of you here, all being black men and being believers. I know sometimes it's kind of hard getting black men
That are
to
believers.
feel about their
Yeah.
think about their mental health. And it reminds me, I had a conversation with one of my guy friends a couple weeks ago, and we were just kind of we had talked about therapy in the past, and he was just kind of telling me about, some of the things he had went through, and I had suggested, I was like, well, have you tried thinking about going to therapy? And he was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I thought about it, but he was like, he wasn't really ready to, I guess, open up that can of worms and start talking about his past experiences. So Jeff, how could you encourage someone to, I mean, you talked about, getting someone to, I guess going to therapy and having it not be, someone just laying in a chair. But how could you encourage someone to, I guess, just start that journey?
Okay, that's a great question because I get that question a lot. So especially if you're talking to, it's two amazing ways that you can do this. Especially when you're talking to a young black male, all right, a male period who is, we have pride. We have a lot of pride.
Yeah.
And what that pride does, it causes us to hold it in. Along with that teaching of, you're not hurt, just rub dirt on it. That whole mindset, that narrative, right? So it causes us to behave a certain way and cause that pride to be much stronger. So I would encourage that young man to say, you know what? Instead of going to a therapist, get a life coach. Every single one of us plays sports. We adore our coaches. Love our coaches. I can ask both of these guys and they can name off their favorite coach and why he was their favorite coach. And so what I would do, instead of throwing therapists at them, start small. We don't need to start big. The first verse that you memorized was John 3:16 because it was small and it was beaten into us. Like it was, it was very small. It was so small they threw it on a coffee mug. So, but you start small, and so hey, go to a life coach. Get a life coach, and what's going to happen is you're going to get comfortable with opening up. That's what you want people to do. You want people to get comfortable with opening up. And then once you get to a point where the life coach doesn't have the resources to attack or address, I'm going to say attack because that's a horrible word to use, Jesus. But address the underlying situation, what they would do, because a lot of life coaches, especially certified ones, have resources to you for a counselor. And if the counselor can't do it, the therapist. And then if the therapist can't do it, now we need to jump into the psychiatrist. And now you're talking medication and all of that. But before you even get the medication, you have some levels of steps. You have some stuff, just like that crate challenge. You got some steps that you're going up to. You won't fall if you take your time, go up those steps. Now here's the thing. Now the second thing I bring to the table, and I will suggest that you do is, everyone, you don't have to go to a therapist because something's going on wrong.
Okay.
You can go to a therapist just to celebrate. I just proposed to my wife. Guess what's gonna happen? Premarital counseling. Counselor. I just got a new job. Okay, I want to celebrate how to manage this new money coming in. So I need to talk about how to manage this new money. And all we're talking about is the new job I just got. Or the new home I just received. Or I moved to a new area and I'm not fully familiar with what's going on. Go to a therapist and talk about that. And so what happens is you build a rapport with that therapy or that therapist or that counselor. And just like with the life coach, you're getting comfortable. So when when something happens, because we know we live in a life that something's going to happen. Our hurdle is coming. Adversity is coming. And then guess what? It's not coming to break you down. It's coming to build you up. It's coming for you to learn, not lose. And so when it comes, you're easily comfortable. You're comfortable because of the rapport you're building with them. Because 2 months ago you talked about having a baby and getting married and getting a new job and moving. And so you feel comfortable with this young man or this young lady who's sitting in front of you with a clipboard in the couch, right? And so you're like, yo, I got a problem. I need to come to the couch. I need to come to the couch. I need to come to the couch. And then people are like, well, you can't go to the No, I'm coming. It's because you're comfortable with them. So now instead of saying, I gotta go, you're saying now, I get to go. So
the perspective changed. Like, I'm glad you said it because, life coaching and therapy, all of that, it can be seen as always a negative thing. Like what you said, going to something's wrong. But when you see it as a celebration, as well, having that balance. And I think me and Angelica was talking about that earlier, like on the previous episode about we talking about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
That was the topic, and going to God and feeling like, oh man, like I blew it, and not, cause so pretty much how I broke it down was just to dive in on what previously, understanding that God has forgiven us first. By understanding that, we can then learn how to forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then by forgiving ourselves, we can then learn how to forgive our neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
In that order. And I believe that it's the same way we'll function with therapy
Mm-hmm.
and God, understanding that who He is,
Mm-hmm.
and the value He's given us, then we can learn how to value ourselves. And then by loving, like you say, loving yourself, then you can know how to love your neighbor and extend that and not feel such of a threat. Because I know that was one of the things that I felt like growing up, even as a kid, my mama asked me certain questions and I just be like, it just came to my mind or whatever, and a lot of times because it's not what she per se wanted me to say, I would just be like, well, it is what it is, but this is what was on my mind. And it's kind of like, that's not what as a parent, they're like, no, I wanted to get this certain thing out of you. But I believe it's good to make space, I think you said earlier, for the child to express everything that they're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe in like 2016, for the first time, I cried to my dad on the phone. And I didn't want to do it, but I was just like, it was so much built up that I had to just let it out.
Yeah.
And I felt amazing out there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Validation is key. I think
That's a bar.
Yeah,
spitting like that.
Because I mean that's the whole thing. Like it's for people to know, like, okay, like I'm experiencing this emotion, being able to identify it. Maybe it's not okay for me to express it now. Not just because, like, I think being black, like you're thinking like, okay, I can't do this because I'm black. But no, like as a human, it's okay to feel this emotion. But it might not just be the most appropriate time to express it. But to know, like, okay, like this is okay for me to experience, and I may have to come back to it later. Like it's just being able to take that, I guess, like that emotional stock, like to be able to understand, like, okay, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm going through, and and I think validation is especially key for black men, because I think the conversation in the world is very harsh. Like it's very harsh with us. Like even just like trying to encourage us to like step up and take responsibilities. Like people come at it pretty hard. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, a lot of black men, we're gonna shut down if we feel like it's a personal attack. So it's like to that friend, like, is to know, like, therapy is hard. Like Jeff spoke about it earlier. Like he said he was mad at his therapist. Like,
I do not like you.
Yeah, that's
nothing about you.
I feel like
I'll be back tomorrow.
I feel like that's how it feels, like with God. Like God, you spend some time with God, you grow your relationship with God. He gonna point out some things you don't want to see, but it's like you need it. It's for the best. Like there's wisdom in a multitude of counsel. So it's like
That's another bar.
It comes from these different paths, these different avenues. So yeah, I think validation is important.
That's good. Angelica, I got a question for you. I know we was talking about, men with therapy. How do you feel it's important for women to have therapy as well?
Of course it's important. I think women, they are just more emotions. So it's like, whether we're talking to a therapist or our girlfriends, we're gonna let things out. Like we're not I mean, we'll bottle some things in, but there's some things we'll just naturally just want to vent. I know for me, a lot of times I don't go to my girlfriends for certain things because it's like, I don't know the kind of response I'm always going to get from them. So some things I'll save and I'll go to my therapist or maybe one of my spiritual leaders because I know they will give me more of a wise counsel and not something I shouldn't be
Girl,
doing.
you know what you need to do. You need to go ahead and...
Exactly. So,
or even if you want a response, like, you know, sometimes you don't want a response. You just want somebody
Sometimes
to hear
I
you.
just want to,
Yeah. So
That's, that's another one. That's good. Just want to
And-
be heard.
and one more thing I wanted to add was, I think it's in terms of encouraging black men to go to therapy. I think you can kind of like play to some of those, like you said, the pride, the ego, the strength, and like, okay, you want to be a man, you want to take responsibility. Well, this is you taking responsibility for your health, like Jeff was saying. It's another aspect of it, and so you can kind of capitalize on that strength of like, oh yeah, okay, all right, well, I'm arranging my therapy appointments, you know, like I'm getting myself together for the month, for the year. Let me make sure I build this into my schedule. So that's another way to like build up on the strengths and kind of validate that experience that black men are going through.
Jeff, I got a question for you. That was good, Dion. How important is it being a black father in the home?
How important is it? Ooh, man.
I know I had to hit you before we close out. I had to hit you with a good one. You know?
So here's the thing. I'm gonna answer that question. Y'all know I like to go around.
Yeah, that's fine.
Why do we do? And anyone can answer this question. I just want one of y'all. Why do we do what we do? What causes our behavior? See?
What triggered?
No, what causes me to do what I do?
Having a reason.
Okay, that's your answer.
That's why I would say you have to have a reason for doing what you're doing.
Okay. So go ahead.
I was gonna go back to fear.
Okay. Fear. So both of y'all are right. So here's the thing. This is what it looks like. We have a behavior, right? And I'm going to answer your question with this diagram. Before our behavior, we have to have a belief. And what a belief is just an idea that we hold true to.
Okay.
And that idea that I hold true, I hold it for so long, it turns into a value. It turns important to me.
Okay.
And because now it's important to me, I create some form of attitude toward it. And now a behavior is happening. And so the reason why it's so important for a father to be inside of a home, and not just a father, but a father who is mentally strong, who's emotionally strong, you know, who's able to say, babe, I can't handle this. Who's able to say this, a God-fearing father, right? This type of man in that house, because what happens is he creates that belief for the family. He creates something for the young woman to submit to. He creates the daughter and the son to look up to and admire to, right? Yeah. He creates this idea that's hold in the family. For example, I'm gonna give you an example of this. In our family is not. I'm nothing without my family. My family is my backbone. My family supports me. My family loves me. That's the idea of the family. Right. That's the idea that I have created inside of the family. Okay. And so now we value family. Family is important to us. So our attitude to our families, I love, I respect, and I honor the family, right? And so now our behaviors are, I'm going to honor you. You say your opinions, say your thoughts, and say your feelings. I'm going to say my thoughts and my feelings, and we're going to compromise. So I'm going to honor you. I'm going to call and check up on you. I'm going to go to events. My behavior are predicated because of the beliefs that I created, not the feelings that I created. A lot of people take those attitudes and try to put it in front of that process. And now you got these young women and these men out here who are joining gangs. People don't join gangs because they don't like authority. They join gangs because they're seeking relationships.
That's real.
She's not jumping from one dude to another dude because she doesn't love herself. She's looking for the relationship. You see what I'm saying? And so what happens is if I can create that belief now at a young age in my family, she's seeing her mother submit to that belief. She's seeing her brother submit to that belief. And so I'm like, I'm going to submit to that belief then.
That's true.
And now I value my family. So I'm going to love, honor, and respect my family. My behavior is going to change. It's going to change, and it's going to be predicated to that belief. And it starts off with our beliefs. A lot of time, I have a young lady the other day with my client, one of my sessions, and she said, Jeff, I lost myself. I feel like I lost myself. And so I started asking her questions. I was like, where are you right now? Well, I'm Ubering right now. I'm on the side of the road because of the session. I said, okay, where's your boyfriend? I called her the husband because I spoke into the atmosphere. But she was like, well, he's at work. I said, well, what's his nationality? African. What's yours? Ghana. Okay. Where school did you go to? Da-da-da. I said, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie? And she started naming all. I said, how in the world did you lose yourself? You do all this by yourself. You ain't never lost yourself. And so now you put this idea in your head that you lost yourself. And so now you value trying to find yourself. Or you value yourself, but you're valuing it with a negative belief. And so now your attitudes toward that value is negative. And so now your behavior is like, yo, I'm just bouncing all over the place. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to do this. And God's like, girl, sit down so I can put you where I need you to put you. But you're doing that because she's doing that because the idea that she put in her head was, I lost myself. And so without a God-fearing, emotionally stable, physically healthy man in the home, you have a bunch of people walking around operating off their attitudes and not a belief system.
And that seed that was planted.
Yeah, not a belief system. And that's not an idea that they even hold true. Because it doesn't become a value until you create that idea. It doesn't come attitudes until you create that idea.
So would you say everything begins with
an idea? You have to, if you don't start here, you're going to lose every single time. Because this is going to change up and down. If I tell Angelica there's a spider on that wall right now, she's going to freak out. She's going to freak out.
Not really.
She's going to run across. But if I go kill that spider, it's saying that she's scared of spiders. But if I kill that spider, guess what? That fear go. So you're going to base your life and the outcomes of life off of an emotion like that? Nah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to base it off of a sound mind. I'm going to base it off a sound mind. So if I see whatever I see, I can see I just lost a job. I can see a pandemic. I can see earthquakes over here. Like Pastor Vernon was talking about last week. I can see all this stuff in the news. But you know what? I'm emotionally stable and I'm emotionally aware of what's going on within me. I can create the thoughts that I need to create to still be victorious, to still be an overcomer, to still take everything out with a slingshot.
Yeah. And that's very important, everything you said. So just to wrap it up, where can the people find you guys?
Richmond, Virginia. No.
As far as like God plus therapy.
I'll let you go first, man.
So my social media handle is Where Are You Easy? The letter U, EAZY.
That's dope.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. What else? Other things they're under construction. God is working on me. I'll get some of these platforms up if it's in His will. I ain't worried about running around like that no more.
I love it. I love it. The best place to find me is Instagram. God plus therapy on Instagram. That's where you can find me. In the link is where you can go to the shop to get the apparel. There are going to be more stuff added to it, such as some prayer cards coming soon. Not prayer cards, I'm sorry. Affirmation book coming soon. There is a free exercise up there, self-care exercise. It's called Take It to the Cross. And it's like an exercise to help you see yourself the way God sees yourself. And it's completely free. Basically what you're doing is taking a cross, a lowercase t, cross, whatever you want to call it. And on the left side, you're putting up every single negative thing that was told to you that day or that week, that month, or whatever. You want to do it toward the end of the week, end of the day, or end of the month. And you want to put every single negative thing that was told to you that you thought of yourself. The first time I did it, I broke down. I was like, man, this is horrible. And on the complete right side, and if you see what you're doing, you're taking it to the cross, crossing the cross. And on the right side, in football, we call that the strong side. And on the right side, you're writing every single thing the complete opposite of what someone's told you. Or you're looking for a verse. So you can type in doubt. Someone told me that I'm a worrier. Somebody told me that I worry too much. So you go to Google. What does the Bible say about worry? And you can type that verse in. Write that verse in on the side. The complete opposite of what worrying is. And then you look at it every single day. The reason we brush our teeth every single day is because we see it. And when I see it, I know the consequences of me not using it. Yeah, I know the consequences of not using it. So let me use that. And so if I put this up every single day and see it every single day, I know the consequences of me not believing the right side.
Yeah.
And so let me start believing the right side, and I can start seeing myself. The more and more I do it, the more and more I see myself see myself the way God sees myself. So it's a free exercise up there. Again, on God Plus Therapy on Instagram, like all the pictures, all the reels. I know how to do reels now, y'all. I know how to do reels, y'all. I know how to do reels. But no, it's up there, God Plus Therapy. And it's a link up there. You can get anything you need in that free exercise I just explained.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Angelica, do you have anything you want to say?
Cut to the chase. Cut to the chase, RVA. Instagram. I'm sorry. That's mental health. barbershop discussion series. We're coming back in October, Black Mental Health Week. Yeah, so
Yeah, follow.
Dope.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank y'all for having
Yeah.
us.
Thank you. Yeah, and this has been the Love Thy Neighbor podcast, episode 8. We talking about mental health. Check it out. God bless.